have a discussion, to talk to each other, and also for you to be listeners, because the topic is quite complicated. Due to the streaming, I have to take the mic with me. So many people do not understand that. May I ask everybody to come a bit? And my explanation, because why in this room we have only 10, 20 dozen people, is that if you have been at the first panel session, there were tweets about, oh, again, children protection, security. What does it to do with internet governance? Because internet governance, by the way, have anybody seen internet governance? Does such animal exist in nature? There is no internet governance. When we talk about internet governance, we are talking about strategy, about vision of the future. And if we talk about future and future development of internet, who will be the users of the future internet? Not me, probably some of you, but it is the children and the young people, the digital natives, who will be using, if there is such thing, an internet-governed social sphere, because internet is not about technology. Of course, technology is the structure, it is the foundation of internet. Internet turned into a social sphere, into a social community, and this community has very, very different characteristics and specifics, and all of these are very much implicating, influencing the lives of the children and young people today. That is why we have proposed this panel. At first it was empowerment, meaning empowering all internet users. I don't have a definition for empowerment, but when we have looking for panelists, for people who are experts in the field of internet, and on the other hand, empowerment, we found out what is absolutely logical, that these people somehow are connected or have been working or thinking about young users of internet. So, first let me present myself. My name is Georgi Apostolov, and I am coordinating the Bulgarian Safer Internet Center, which is part of 30 internet centers, safer internet centers. We have a European network, it's called InSafe, and we are very happy to have with us today the coordinator of InSafe network, Mr. Hans Martens. He's here. And we are also member of another organization, another network, which is called InHope, which is the International Association of Hotlines. Do you know something about that? Okay. It is organizations from 47 countries, Sir Richard? We are already 47 countries running online reporting facilities. At first, it started in 1999 as an organization or association to fight child pornography on internet. But with the development of internet, we went deeper into the social aspects. Because, of course, we have child pornography. Of course, we have pedophilia in internet. But we have more and more what the young people and children are doing themselves. That's why I'm saying that it is not about networks, not about broadband, not about optical things, not about servers. It's about teaching something what we call media literacy, which includes not only the conventional media literacy, that means the traditional old media, it means digital literacy, because internet is media, it's social, it's communication, it's information, it's everything. So, to make the thing short, let me introduce our renowned and respectful panelists. Let me start from left to right. we have with us Sir Richard Tilt, who is the chair of Internet Watch Foundation, which is the British organization running the hotline, and one of the most successful and one of the first hotlines in the world. So they have very large expertise in doing this. Then we have Mr. Jeffrey DeMarco. Okay, maybe I'll let you just introduce yourselves and say a few words about yourself. Okay, as I missed Sir Richard.
No, it's fine.
It's fine? Okay. Let's continue.
Thanks, Georgie. My name is Jeffrey DeMarco. I am a project manager and research fellow for a current EC initiative based out of the Center for Abuse and Trauma Studies at Middlesex University, looking at industry, law enforcement, and political collaboration in dealing with online crimes against children.
Hello everybody, I'm Florian. I'm from Austria. I'm the NSF Youth Ambassador. I think some of you know NSF. Yeah, I'm here today to talk a little about, as well as the youth empowerment and about the Youth Manifesto. Maybe you know these as well. And yeah, that's it.
Hi, my name is Maria Gaton. I'm from IC Media, a Spanish Federation of associations of media users. So basically our aim is to improve quality in media, and one of our areas of expertise is also the protection of children in media. So I think that we'll have time afterwards to speak more deeply.
Thank you. Keep the mic among you to make things easier. At any point, anybody can stop and ask questions if something is not clear. That's the game. So let me start from the end. IC Media is a company which is working on developing kind of media for young users.
Well, basically, hi. Okay, so basically it's like an NGO that aims for improving quality in media. So how do we do that? We basically work on 3 pillars. We influence the public administration, so we sit with all the regulators and providing the point of view of the users, basically, so that the user's point of view in media is taken into account when ruling, basically, and also with the supervisory body in Spain for media content. So that's one area. Another area, and of course we also do a lot of advocacy with the Senate, with the Congress. We have a panel of experts, basically, that are university professors that are specialized on areas regarding, for example, children in media, protection of children in media, or optimization for children in media. So we are quite into the area of work of labeling of information for internet and for media content, and that's one area. So another area is that we also do a lot of advocacy with the media industry. So we have meetings with the most important media industry channels in Spain, basically, and also, I mean, we are open internationally now, and basically we try to provide them a point of view of the users in which, for example, the area of the time frame for children is respected. That is very simple. Well, that perhaps is so simple, but it's not respected in Spain, at least. So, I mean, we are not just like, I mean, like people that are angry with those things, but yes, we do encourage them to have positive content, or at least, I mean, respect that. Yeah. So that's one area. And another area is that we also approach the civil society. So we do a lot of what you said about media literacy and digital citizenship. So how can the society be empowered to actually provide their point of view and provide their opinion on media subjects and be like active actors in all the media scene. So,
if I get it correctly,
yes,
you are empowering young people to be smart users
yeah.
of traditional and new media.
Yeah.
and you are looking at this as a protective factor against every risks or dangers that exist in internet for young people?
Yes, and we do, I mean, we empower them because the thing is that the risks are there, but you cannot say, but you need to use all the channels also. So basically the young people, I mean, it's impressive how young people and how children are now using all the channels and all the applications and everything. So basically, we need to empower that. We can't say you can't use, for example, your, I don't know, like Twitter or whatever, because there is a risk there. I mean, these are the channels of the future, and that's what we're going to use. So basically, you need to create a responsive attitude towards the channels they are using. So it's something like more deeper than just saying this no or this no. I mean, you need to empower, you need to be able to optimize what you have. But another area that is very important is the information. So basically for children and for young people, it is important to know what they're watching. I mean, like for everyone. Afterwards you can choose, but you need to know what you're watching.
Thank you, Maria. It's clear, but we have here somebody who can criticize your position. Okay. And Florian, do you think that the approach of IC Media, teaching, educating young people, it is enough for them to be empowered to become what we call digital citizen or whatever?
Well, I think... It's on. Okay, yeah. Sorry. A short answer: no. I'm sorry. I don't think it's enough, but I think it's definitely a right approach, and I don't think that one organization can do all this stuff that is necessary. That wouldn't be just possible. And yeah, what I wanted to mention, and I think all of you noticed that it's not quite easy to get people to talk about youth empowerment, as you can see in the number of people in this room. But I have brought something with me which shows how great it is when we are able to empower youth. I will just set up. That's a t-shirt I got from the Safer Internet Forum in Brussels. It's signed from, I don't know, 30 youths about in all the different languages. Most of them I can't read, but I like it. And thanks. What is happening if you push this further and if you are able to empower youths all over Europe, then something like the Youth Manifesto can be created. And that's what I want to explain to you. The Youth Manifesto has been, to create the Youth Manifesto has been a long process of finding ideas, and those ideas have been brought by youth and by children. So not by policymakers or industry, but from the youth. And a very long process of defining and finding similarities. The Youth Manifesto got on 10 basic principles, and there is, for example, the second one, education and support, with the subtitle, we want support and education about the internet for everyone, of course, including the children. And as you can see, to get back to your question, it's a very important part in the process, but I think it's just not enough. So there is way more to do than educating.
Would you like to mention some other important of the 10 principles? Though the Youth Manifesto is available online, everybody, if you just write in Google Youth Manifesto, you can open and read it.
Hans is giving the Youth Manifesto principles to everybody, I think.
Ah, great. Thank you, Hans.
And as you can see, it's going from hardware and real-world things like free unrestricted access and infrastructure and connectivity to more social aspects like respect online and a hack-free online environment. And yeah, it's really from every area you can imagine, something is listed what is, I think, is a really good beginning to empower the right people.
Thank you, Florian. It's great.
May I just make a short announcement?
Absolutely.
Sorry to interrupt you. My name is Wolf Ludwig. I'm involved in the organization of the EuroDIG. Just a short reminder. Every workshop should have selected a reporter. And please make sure that the reporter will deliver 3 bullet points summarizing the debate. So we do not need an extensive report. We just need 2 to 3 bullet points saying, okay, these were the highlights of our discussion, and we need them tomorrow afternoon latest. So please help to collect these reports and make sure that they are sent to us.
Thank you. I think we are already ready with our 3 points. Okay. Just to remind you again that Florian is a member of the Pan-European Youth Panel, which is supported by the InSafe network, and they are regular participants in the annual Pan-European Safer Internet Forum. And that's how he became an ambassador, and now he's working on national, international level, promoting the Youth Manifesto. Do you have among the 10 points something which mentions security, protection, something like that?
Yes, of course. To get the exact wording. For security, there's the privacy and data protection. We want to be able to protect our data and privacy online. It's really general, of course, but if you go into deep with the statement, there is everything regarding security and protecting any personal data.
Thanks, Florian. I'm asking because I'll come back to the first panel discussion and the tweets there, and the tweet that said cybersecurity. You think that every user is dumb enough not to be able to protect himself? Or other tweet was stated, when we talk about security, it usually goes to government spying on us. That's, I think, now the time to ask Sir Richard, do you think that education, training, digital skills will be enough in a future internet world for the children and young people to feel enough safe when they use ICTs?
Are you happy for me to say a bit about... Come on. Are you happy for me to say a bit about what we do first? I mean, I'm happy to answer the question, but...
Yeah, sure.
As you said in the introduction, I'm the chair of an organisation, the Internet Watch Foundation, which runs the UK hotline for the reporting and removal of child sexual abuse material online. We have been a growing organisation because of the quantity of this material that is there. We are an independent body, but we work closely with industry and we work closely with law enforcement and to some extent with governments. We are often held up as a good example of a multi-stakeholder organisation that tries to pull everybody together in a collaborative way. Just to give you some idea of the kind of volume of work that we do, last year, 2014, we received over 75,000 reports of child sexual abuse material. That's something like 300 a day that our analysts are looking at and examining. Something like half of that would be assessed by us as criminal. The other half would probably fall into the category of pornography. But on top of the volume that we're dealing with, I think it is true to say that we're the only hotline in the world that is allowed to proactively search for this material. What I mean by that is that our analysts, since they become rather expert in finding this material, can now go looking for the material. And because what happens when we find criminal material is that we alert the ISP and ask them to take the material down. In almost every case, they will do that within about an hour of us detecting it. If we are dealing with material that is hosted somewhere else or hosted by somebody who's not one of our members, we draw up every day a list of this prohibited material, which is circulated widely around the world, and other organizations use it to take material down. Just again, to give you a sort of flavor of what we do, as I said, about 50% of the stuff that we see is clearly criminal. In the UK, we have 3 levels of criminality, and most of it actually falls into the top level. 80% of the material is depicting children who are aged 10 or less. 4% is depicting children who are aged 2 or less. 43% of all the content showed some, as I said, showed the worst abuse possible based on the UK categorization, and this will involve both torture and sexual degradation. And as I say, we're talking about, in the main, very young children. As John Carr made the point this morning, anybody under 18 is a child. But for our purposes, when we're dealing with images involving children of, say, 16, 17, 18, it's very difficult for us to action them, because it's very difficult to be certain that the images portrayed relate to under 18s. But most of the stuff that we're dealing with relates to children under 10. I don't think we do nearly enough. I mean, our core mission is the removal of the material, and we're doing that. But it'd be foolish to imagine that, we are removing all the material, or a high percentage, because there is so much material there. The other things that we do is that we sponsor research into this area, and we also run every year some what we call harm reduction public awareness campaigns to bring to the attention of the public the need to report this material if they come across it. And we concentrate very much on young men under 25 and try and encourage them to report this material to us and get them engaged. I mean, the whole thing is about engaging citizens in tackling what is a really serious social problem. I think there is very much more to be done, and different countries do different things. The UK does have some programs in schools to try and alert children to the dangers of the internet, and I would wholeheartedly support that. I don't think we do enough of that by any means. One of the problems I have encountered in dealing with schools is that the children's parents often are extremely ignorant about the internet and about actually ignorant about the dangers of it. This is the real problem. There is very little understanding, I think, amongst what I would call the general public in the UK about just how dangerous some of the things on the internet can be. And I think that as societies over the years, we've set up our own domestic systems for dealing with criminal activity. We have organized ways of trying to prevent crime, trying to detect it, trying to prosecute it, and that can be quite successful. But we have to remember that whatever the huge benefits of the internet, there are also huge opportunities for criminal behaviour. I deal only with one, which is the child sexual abuse, but of course there are others, as was being mentioned in the plenary session this morning, where big growth in financial crime on the internet. And we have to remember, I think, that there is this huge potential there for criminal activity. And so going back to your question, no, I don't think we do nearly enough. I'm not sure whether it is possible to do enough. Actually, I think this is it's a really serious problem for the years ahead.
From what I have heard, UK has one of the strictest laws concerning internet regulation. That means blocking, filtering. Is that true?
Well, we are a membership organisation, so we have about 120 members, which includes all the big ISPs, and we have an agreement with them that if we identify material, they will take it down immediately, and we get a very good response from that. I think the interesting thing about the Internet Watch Foundation is it is done by consent, actually. It's not a matter of saying that the UK has very strict law. I mean, it may do. I'm not saying it doesn't, but it isn't that we use the law. We use our members' desire to make sure that their networks are not carrying this material, and that in the end is the strongest way of doing this. I mean, there is. I mean, apart from the question of whether there's a moral imperative, which there clearly is with this material, but for the internet service providers, there's also a commercial interest. They do not wish to be seen as collaborating in any way with the broadcasting of this material. So I think we work very much on consensus. We have just an interesting point. We have what's known as a memorandum of understanding with our prosecutors in the UK, because obviously the people who work for us, our analysts, are actually technically committing a crime when they are viewing this material. We have a memorandum of understanding. It doesn't really say you may do this, this, and this. It simply says that there is a perfect good defence to what you're doing because you're trying to prevent crime, and therefore we will not prosecute in these circumstances. But it's not a law.
Thank you. And when we get to regulations and to law, I think Jeffrey has experience in that field. And
not entirely just the law and regulation, but more of an understanding of these working partnerships and legislative practices, especially from a UK base. Picking up where Sir Richard left off, actually, this memorandum that's shared between the IWF and our Association of Chief Police Officers is actually one of the reasons why the UK is often heralded as one of the more advanced processes and procedures in dealing with explicit and illegal content online, because of that horrible word sometimes that we all use, multi-stakeholder, multi-collaborating partnership. I mean, we all like to say it and to throw it around, but when it actually comes down to being operationally useful, there can be a lot of red tape and a lot of big egos that get in the way. But that is one very good example of good practice. I've read the document, I've seen the document, I've included the document in writings and reports. And again, it's not necessarily legislation and law, but it's an understanding, it's a partnership. And that's important. And weaving that into what yourself, Georgie, started the session out with, and moving through my colleagues here, when looking at this and considering, the topic of the session, youth empowerment, we do need to consider all of the different human and societal institutions and elements that need to be woven together to have a model of best practice. Georgia, you started the session off by saying that the internet isn't just about technology, it's about humans. And that's entirely correct. The terms augmented reality, digital native, digital immigrant, although we still use those terms a lot, they're 5, 10 years old now. We need to now think of people as, you're born, you're online. All right, we can no longer necessarily always consider online, offline dichotomies. All right, I mean, we need to appreciate some of the research that has led us to understanding these dichotomies, but we need to also understand that being online, being LinkedIn, being with your use of an ICT at constant rate. For example, I'm not being rude by looking at my phone right now. I'm actually tweeting some of the comments that my colleagues are making, so please do bear that in mind. But that is how we are. all right? And so there's a very interesting comment this morning in the very opening session talking about how there is a different rate of development in terms of policy and governments, in terms of legislation, in terms of technology. All right, technology develops at a much quicker rate than politicians, legislation, and policy generally can. We forget the human-centric element of that as well. Looking from a very environmental and developmental psychological point of view, what about the rate at which people age? So looking at this concept kind of youth empowerment, all right? We cannot sit in our offices in Brussels and Strasbourg and London and Paris and decide how we are going to empower young people and decide what they're allowed to do and what they're not allowed to do. We need them at that time during their developmental formative years to be part of the dialogue. Not only will that empower them, as again this entire session is about, it also includes the actual people who many of these things that we're discussing pertain to. By empowering them, we provide levels of education, we provide levels of awareness, we allow them to be able to deal with some of the consequences and learn from their own online/offline, whichever term you want to use, behavior of their own accord. I cannot sit in my office and dictate what 15, 14, 13-year-olds should be doing because I am not a 15, 14, and 13-year-old anymore, nor does my experience of being a 15, 14, 13-year-old necessarily have complete congruence with what one has today?
Thank you very much. Here I want to turn to the people present here. I cannot use the word audience because we are just a group of people. Any comments or questions at this point to our panelists? Yes, please.
I was slightly shocked about your use of criminal act. You said the people that watch those contents are technically committing a crime. Haven't we forgot when we talk about criminal law about the basic need of prohibiting certain behavior that is about protection of real people? Can you not overblow it also? I heard a Swedish example when somebody who was an interpreter of Japanese mangas, he was sentenced in a criminal court for doing his work, just translating mangas. I mean, there was no person offended, possibly. It was just overblowing of law. So let's not forget, put the human being in the center of our attention, and don't criminalize somebody who watches, let's say, a photo of a self-posted photo of a 15-year-old boy who wants to boast how beautiful he is, and some other looks at that photo on his computer and he commits a crime. Come on, we can overblow this, put the human being in the center of attention, and watch out, there is real slavery around here. Here in this hotel room, maybe they're working slaves. They were sold by somebody, and they make big profits out of this. Let's put the human being in the focus of attention and not overblow it and say the internet is so dangerous. If you look at a photo, you're committing a crime. Come on. Yeah, I'm Thomas Feiner, I'm a lawyer.
Thank you. Who is going to answer?
Sure, yeah, I'm not, there are two things here really. What I was talking about was our own analysts committing a crime by viewing the material. There is a defence in law to that, and that's what the Memorandum of Understanding is all about, making it clear. I think it's section 46 of the Sexual Offences Act that provides that defence. But you'll probably... Sorry?
And if this person that you have hired to look at the material finds sexual pleasure, then would it be a crime then?
Well, no, I'm not. The crime is looking at it. It's not, you know, who can judge whether someone's experiencing sexual pleasure? It is a crime to look at it. I'm not talking. The material that we're talking about is not selfies. This is, you know, the most extreme. I don't know if you're familiar with UK law. There are three categories of I mean, almost all of it falls into the top category. The material that falls into the bottom category we don't generally deal with.
If I may add to...
What is legal? Well, it depends on the age, not if it's a child.
Yeah, but in the UK it's illegal to have that material.
Yes, it is. Yes,
It's
yeah.
perfectly legal under US law.
Well, fine, but you know, I'm personally, as a UK citizen, am pleased that it's illegal in the UK.
May I? Yes, you're right. But there, I mean, I think we can appreciate that there is a very big difference between a 5-year-old child being raped and a 15-year-old without their shirt on, in whether it be a man. And that's one of the problems that obviously this whole dialogue is trying to lead towards. Our law enforcement and industry and political partners are at an absolute saturation point because of a lot of this quote-unquote noise, but whose discussion, whose job is it to decide what is noise and what is not? Do you know what I mean? I mean, the harmonization of law in this area is almost impossible.
Florian wanted to add something?
Yeah, I wanted to add something on the very last what you were saying about that the internet is not dangerous, but what the people are doing with it. Basically, that's what he said. Okay, I understood it right. Well, you're true, but the problem is that the internet gives the people the power to do so, because I don't know, before the internet, I was not born, there was just the possibility to spread child pornographic material all over the world in a few seconds. And yeah, that's I actually forgot now what I want to say. But you have to be careful with this comparison, because the internet itself keeps a lot of danger in its abilities, what it can do, because it can spread, for example, a picture of me without any clothes in seconds all over the hotel. And without the internet, this wouldn't be possible. So the internet itself is a dangerous ability which you and I have.
Yeah, I was going to add that I think the regulation is a very important aspect, but I'm going to go on again on the aspect of the education, because I think that the good use of internet and of media content through internet has to do with the education of children and of youth, and also we need to also fill in the gap with parents and teachers. So that's why also it's very important, because at times the children know very well how to use it, but the parents, they don't know, and they at times don't enter into that, or they just say, no, you can't use that, and that's not the attitude. So basically you really need to fill in that gap, so that children, youth people, that obviously they're different, I mean 7, 8 to 15, it's completely different. Parents and teachers, they are all in the same approach towards digital. So I think that's, yeah.
Okay, thank you, Maria. And just allow me to go a bit back into the discussion. We in HOPE, the 49 hotlines, we try to stop to use the words child pornography. We try to impose child sexual abuse material, because when we talk about pornography or child pornography, usually people think about some images, as you said, could be Caravaggio. But when we talk about child pornography on the internet, we are talking about photos or videos, sometimes a live stream of rape of children, and it is sexual abuse. The crime is not the image itself, the material. The crime is that for producing this, you have to have abused a child, and as Sir Richard said, sometimes we are talking about children under 2 years of age. Anyway, another thing, it depends on the country. For example, the Bulgarian hotline, last year we had something like 2,000 reports, and about 60, 70 of them were concerning child sexual abuse and material. The biggest part was about what children produced themselves, just to support your view. It is Everybody knows about Snapchat. Everybody knows about selfies, shoofies, youfies, and everything. It is going back to the point of Maria. What we need is education. That's why when I was thinking about this panel, I had 3 words in my mind. It was education, protection, and support. Education should be the first, to my mind. If we start educating children from very early age, but not educating in this way, internet is dangerous, don't go there, it's the bad wolf waiting for you, but to educate them to be smart and to use all the opportunities the internet gives. So here the industry, who are talking in the other rooms about broadband, about networks and so on, they are very, very guilty for not producing the internet we need. Empowering internet, we need good content. And I'm not talking about educational content, because children don't like to be taught, especially digital natives. That's why our schools are failing. They don't want to be preached. They don't want to be told what to do and what not to do. They want to be given the opportunity to do something by themselves. And we have good examples of that. We have companies who have produced very good games, for example, online games. We have the so-called Coder Dojo movement, which works in teaching children to program games for mobile devices with very, very, very simple software. So it's the first. Second is, of course, protection. To my mind, anyway, we need protection. And the numbers that Sir Richard told you, and the numbers for the all-in hope is that the 49 hotlines are usually working on more than 2 million reports per year. And it helps because if it only goes to law enforcement, there is no law enforcement agency in the world that could deal with 2 million reports per year. That's why this network is so important. We are kind of filtering, and we are saying this is illegal by national law. The laws differ. Or this is legal. And from the last year, we are working together with Interpol database. We have our own database, our hotlines, but now we are connected to Interpol database to match the material that appears in our reports. And just, if I'm not wrong, Sir Richard, you can correct me if I'm wrong, in 4 months when we are testing the connection, there were 3 new pedophiles identified, 4 children saved from sexual abuse, and on several cases undergoing investigations, additional evidence collected, just in 4 months. So that's protection, and the last word is support, because maybe Jeffrey also can afterwards tell us about that. Support for the children who have done some stupid things, especially teenagers. Teenager is a girl or a boy who is supposed by definition to do stupid things. But internet gives the opportunity to do dangerous stupid things. And I'm talking about selfies, I'm talking about revenge porn, and such kind of things which appeared with internet. That's it, okay? We have from the public.
Okay, I'm Rosalia Baco from Romania. I'm here with 2 hats. I'm wearing the hat of an educator. I'm teaching communication at the university, and also I'm volunteering in a school in a digital literacy project. And my second hat is a researcher, part of an EU network, COST network, aimed at evaluating digital literacy of young children. It is an uncovered area, and this is a project which is starting up right now in a couple of months. It's coordinated from the University of Sheffield, UK, by Jackie Marsh, and it's a whole network of researchers from 30 countries across Europe. And I wanted to share with you all these efforts and concerns, and I would also like to connect with the stakeholders united in this room, with the members of the panel, to get information, more information, and more input for our research and evaluation. It's not easy to research young children. Many ethical concerns and also methodological concerns. We are in a process of learning on how to approach the issue of digital literacy. The term itself, it's not an easy thing. And yet, this is our new generation's world. My grandson is 3. His third word he learned after mommy, daddy was Google. This is a different generation, we all see. But how can we approach this different generation? There is also a new educational theory called connectivism, developed by Siemens, which considers that authoritarian style and the old ways of approaching education are no longer appropriate for this generation. And the thing that Mr. Apostolov said, that this generation doesn't want to be taught or preached in the way that other generations were. How can we make this empowerment possible? That's why I'm curious. What's your opinion, people in the room and panel members? How can we make more use of this resource called internet? I consider it a resource, not only a source of danger.
Good question. Does anybody has the answer?
No, I think that there are loads of initiatives in the market. I mean, now, I was thinking when, for example, I don't know, I think that's the attitude basically. Facebook, for example, has now some programs that they are doing them in UK and in some schools in Spain. And basically they are using Facebook as reporter tool for students basically to make up. They have to study about Israel, for example. That was one of the projects, and basically they are reporters, they are journalists, and they are using their Facebook for a project in school. And basically that is like, I mean, for them, Facebook is something that they use it normally, and now they can use it also for school, so it's really sort of like fun. On the other hand, it's also very positive for their work, and they are sort of like optimizing all the resources of Facebook for their academic behavior and future. So I think that most of the companies and the private companies are trying to leverage, I mean, all the resources they have on a positive way, and that's the attitude, basically. And also, for example, the animation industry, I mean, they're doing like really creative things, and obviously the way they connect with children now is different to the way they connected like 10 years ago. So they are adapting to these new channels and these new ways of doing things.
Thanks. Yeah, that's very important point, and I just forgot to say that when we are talking about support, we have another part of InSafe network. I mean, the so-called Safer Internet Centers. They are doing education, awareness raising, developing methodology, but also running helplines. That means psychologists, usually, who consult on different channels, by telephone, online, and so on, children, parents, and teachers about something that happened already in the internet. So they give them support and decision how to get out of a dangerous situation.
Just to say, I think, I mean, it's obvious, but we are not investing nearly enough in education in schools, almost certainly in what we would in the UK would call primary school, under 11s. I mean, this is such a huge part of not only of our lives already, but of what's coming in the future. And we are not preparing, I speak entirely domestically about the UK, we are not preparing our children well enough for it. I think there's so much more that could be done, and I'm very pleased to hear about the research that you're doing. The other thing I would just mention is, it's a bit of an aside, but one thing I came across in Germany was a website called Frag Finn, which kind of gives a sort of quality assurance to websites that children may use, and you know, it can satisfy people that those websites will be safe. I think it goes up to age 11 or 12, something like that. I mean, it's just, that isn't the answer, of course, because people will go other places, but it's that sort of thing that we really do need to invest in. It can be very helpful.
Thank you. So we have somebody from the public.
Hello, my name is Margot. I'm representing a Swiss NGO, and I'm a project manager on Internet and Human Rights. I just wanted to bounce back on education and the fact that children don't want to be taught. I think that's only logical, because the education model is based on your parents and the teachers know everything. And suddenly, the children know more about Internet than their parents or their teacher. And Google knows better, obviously. So I have a basically very simple question, but the answer is very complicated. What do we do today to empower teachers to respond to children? Because that's the way we can do more youth empowerment, I think. Thank you.
Thank you. Also a complicated question.
Since I've got the microphone, I'll go first on that. I think surely, I mean, you're absolutely right, but the way you empower teachers is to get them to capitalise on the children's ability, the children's interest in the internet. I mean, it's a win-win situation actually if you put enough time into it. But I don't think in our school syllabuses we've got nearly enough time for dealing with the internet.
No, I completely agree. Teachers, the education system in any country should be the front line of empowering young people, because let's be serious, teachers spend more time with our kids than we do during those formative years. So, and the incongruence obviously develops when you have, again, these terms, digital native, digital immigrant, when you have older generations who aren't necessarily as apt with the technologies trying to educate. Same with languages. Right? You know, if you have a non-native speaking, teaching, training a language to somebody who speaks it fluently, there's going to be some problems. I think that obviously, yeah, the simple answer to the complicated one is that our teachers need to get the training. What that training package looks like, how we roll it out across different countries, across different jurisdictions, across different school levels, all of that is a whole other story. The other side, though, and I'm just going back to this great research organization network that's coming into play, but touching on the empowerment of the teachers and the young people, is not to promote the concept that the internet's dangerous, because the internet isn't dangerous. I mean, it's if we improve awareness. All right? I mean, you know, how long ago was it dangerous to walk to the store by yourself? How long ago was it dangerous to take the bus by yourself? I mean, we'll always have these moral panics. That's inevitable. And I think it's just important to not engage in fear-mongering of our young people, to make sure that they are equipped with the tools to actively engage, to know what's right, to know what's wrong, to make mistakes, because mistakes do happen. All right? There's the idea of especially adolescence being a period of storm and stress in someone's life, where, you know, teenagers are moody, they have problems with authority, and they just don't necessarily want to listen what we tell them. That's understandable. That's a developmental phase. That's something that we need to embrace when we talk about any of these issues. So coming all the way back to it, promoting safe use of the internet, but not using fear-mongering techniques, and using this capital, this workforce of teachers, and ensuring that they are being equipped with the tools necessary to reach those young people at that same technological level.
I wanted to stress that because I think that idea is very important. The fact that, I mean, internet is a new channel, but it's not that it has changed our lives in everything. I mean, you really need to know how to handle it. And you need also to have the information to be able to choose. That's very important also. So you need to manage technically everything that has to do with internet, social media and everything. That's on one hand. And on the other hand, on the other hand, all the aspect also of internet for TV, basically, because internet now is also, it's like, you can now watch, Netflix, and it's like TV. So content, basically. So one area that is important regarding, for example, children protection and all that is all that has to do with the labeling of information, that some countries are working on that. So basically being able to know what are your children going to watch, and afterwards you are free to say yes or no, and your children are also, depending on their age, to say, okay, I want this or that. So what is important is to be informed, and the information gives you also the freedom for choice. That is like a more positive attitude towards it, basically.
So I have a question for Florian, obviously. I'm here representing INSAFE, but actually I work for European Schoolnet, which is a partnership of ministries of education, so I'm sure my director wouldn't be happy with this question. But a lot of what we've been doing was in sort of an out-of-school informal context, in a sense, and I think it links also with the top tweet at this point. So okay, you have the formal approach, and I think we all agree that teachers are of key importance. But Florian, what's your view, sort of the relationship perhaps between schools, out of school, and perhaps also is there a possibility more bottom-up to have young people doing their own thing in this context? And could you come up with some ideas?
That's really a complicated question, I have to say. But basically, I mean, I'm still in school, or I has been in school like since 2 weeks ago. It's really a problem in school to talk about like topics, youth empowerment and the youth manifesto, because especially in Austria, I can't speak for other countries, there is no lessons, no courses to talk about this, no time left. And maybe the students maybe would be really happy to talk about stuff like that and to get empowered, but that's not up to them, because a lot of students live in some villages like I do, and there is no way to get somebody to know who is into this topic. I mean, I came to Safer Internet by one person who came from Vienna to my hometown and who talked about Facebook, Twitter and co. And it was designed for parents, and I came there and listened, because I was worried that this guy is only talking about how bad social media is. And that was my reason to be there. And that was how I got empowered and why I'm here now today. But as you can see, it's really difficult to get there. I mean, for example, Safer Internet is all over social networks and social media, but it's, usually you don't see this kind of content if you are not already linked to it. So we need to provide some kind of way to get every child and every youth, to give them the possibility to get active and to get empowered. But how are we going to do this? That's a big question. Sort of a solution would be that teachers are empowering the students, or we have a common course all over Europe for every youth from, I don't know, 16 to 18 or something like that, where youth get informed about the topic and the problems and what is going on. But that's, far away, I would say, because policymakers are not really interested in realizing stuff like this.
Thank you, Florian. Maybe it's a good point to end, but anyway, if somebody from the panelists or from the audience has to say some final words.
Well, I just want to pick up where Florian left off there. I mean, he says, how would we empower people in a more productive way. And I think you're right. Look at you sitting here doing this, the youth ambassador, right? Why not spread those words of safety, of awareness, of education from the young people to the young people? That's arguably, from a testimonial perspective, the best source. Also, it would be quite empowering, I think, to many of our colleagues who work within the Brussels and Strasbourg parliamentary levels to be in this room right now, to be empowered about your information, but many don't seem to, it's testament to exactly what we're talking about right now. In order to be empowered in this area, this room should be full so that the message is being brought, and this room is embarrassingly empty at the moment. And for a conference like this, you would expect a lot of discussion, a lot of dialogue, and I mean, I think that we need to recognize that. Again, this morning in the opening sessions, John Carr started with saying that 1/3 of internet users were under the age of 18. Internationally. I don't care if you want to call them children or minors. I mean, whatever the beef is with that, 1/3 are under the age of 18. Under UN regulations, that means that they should, under international law, be given the rights of a child, regardless of it being abuse, violence, or just basic fundamental rights of civic engagement and participation. So if 1/3 of internet users are under the age of 18, then surely they should be making up a proportional they should have proportional representation when dealing with a lot of these things, but they don't. We've got a bunch of, it's the old ivory tower conundrum where you have a bunch of academics sitting up in their libraries and their offices dictating policy. Well, it's the same with politicians, with policy, with legislation. We need young people to tell us what they need, what they want, but they also need our guidance. They can't do it alone. There is another multi-stakeholder partnership involved here. But again, it shouldn't just be industry, law enforcement, academics, politics. It should also be representatives from our youth communities.
Thank you very much. It was a very good kind of summarizing of the problem.
Hello, everyone. My name is Daniel. I'm from Republic of Moldova. The problem is it's not that the youth, the youngsters, don't want to learn or to study. The problem is that the older ones can't find a better approach. See, like 2 years ago, at one lecture at university, nobody prepared their homework. So the professor was actually mad, and he said, like, okay, if you don't want to study, it's up to you, but it's better for my son because he will have less concurrence when he will try to find a job. So at the next lesson, every student was prepared. Maybe it's up to older ones to find this thin line, how to get in the youngster's mind. I think so. Thank you.
Thank you. Some other last comments, because we are already out of the time we had. Did we decide something about internet governance and empowering? No, I think we have. Yeah, please, Florian.
Going straight back to what I said before. I was rethinking it, and I have to add something up. Back to the Youth Manifesto, you remember what I told you, that a whole of youth and children were involved in finding all the ideas. That's a way how to get them empowered, and that has been working. It was, I think, really hard for the organizers, for the INSEF network, to get the youth to do all the works and to find ideas and to rate the ideas from 1 to 5, and it was a lot of work to do. But it worked because now the publication is ready and finished and published. But that is one thing, and it took a whole year. And now the publication is finished, and yeah, now we're working on how to get it further, of course, but it's not that easy, and the youth who were involved in finding the ideas are mostly not empowered over a consistent time. And that's a problem. But I wanted to say that there is a way and that it is working as well.
Thank you, Florian. We have. Oh, how good.
Sorry, it will be very quick because I think to answer your question, we did decide something on internet governance. We spoke yesterday at the EuroDIG of the multi-stakeholder approach. So I think that the last final word would be that in the multi-stakeholder approach, we should not forget children because they are the future of internet, I guess.
Great, it was a provocation from my side. And it led to a good result. If there are no more comments, let me say thank you to our panelists and to you for being here. And I would ask everybody in this room, except Florian, to wish luck to the young people in future internet governance. It's in your hands. Thank you.